Hello, speaker. Speaker, are you here? Okay, tak ada masuk lagi. Okay, we are waiting for Heng Yi. Okay. Heng Yi, you are the government, right?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Speaker, do you want to test the mic?
Singh, can you hear me? Is it clear?
Okay.
Testing. Okay, is that right?
Okay, Heng Yi, first Prime Minister, can you speak anything?
Yes, testing. Can you hear me?
Okay. Heng Yi, second.
Testing.
Okay. Heng Yi, third government.
Testing.
Okay. Opponent one.
Testing.
Opponent two.
Testing.
Okay. Opponent three.
Testing.
Okay. Judges one. Do you hear? Judges? Okay. We are waiting. Okay.
Kita contact melalui WhatsApp ke?
Bukan.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, Awi. Okay tak? Judges tak? Test judges. Masuk tak lagi judges satu?
Puan judge satu siapa ya? Saya judge dua.
Okay, judge dua. Judge tiga masuk dah?
Ashwin, are you around?
Yeah, I'm around.
Okay.
Hi.
Number 3 dah masuk. Ada lagi seorang.
Puan Tan.
Puan Tan, are you here? Kuantan, are you here? Okay, timekeeper boleh bunyi bell sikit. Okay, semua dengar. Kalau dengar, angkat thumbs up sikit. Okay, clear. Okay, we are waiting for the first judges.
Here, I'm here.
Okay, Kuantan, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, speaker,
Boleh kita mulakan?
timekeeper. Okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Welcome one and all here today, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Ms. Tohi Chin, and I will be your speaker for this afternoon's highly anticipated showdown. Once again, it is with great pleasure that I welcome all of you to this 2021 state level Datuk Wira Dr. Abdul Rahman Arshad parliamentary style debate, the semi-final round at our most charming venue, the Zoom meeting room, one digital platform. Helping me is our timekeeper, Encik Shamsul Zaidi bin Zainal Abidin, and we are graciously hosted by Puan Nur Suziani binti Muhammad Dahlan and Encik Muhammad Shazri. Members of the House, before we proceed, allow me to first read out the rules and regulations of the debate. 1. Marks will be awarded based on the following: content, 40 points, language, 20 points, manner, 20 points, and strategies, which add up to 100 points. For the reply speech, content, 20 points, language, 10 points, manner, 10 points, and strategy, 10 points, which add up to 50 points. The time allocated for the speakers are as follows. 8 minutes are given for each speaker to debate the motion. The first and the second speaker may introduce and propose as many arguments. The third debater from both teams shall not introduce any new arguments. Their role is mainly to rebut. While the debater is speaking, the opposition team can offer point of information, POI, or formal interjections after the first minute and until the end of the 7th minute within a time limit of 15 seconds. The debater may accept or decline it. A debater must give or take at least 2 POI during the course of the debate, giving and taking points of information. Giving and taking points of information should be done politely. A debater is required to raise a blue card when putting forth a POI. 4 minutes are given for the reply speech. No points of information is allowed during the reply speech. Now for the bell. The bell will be rung once after the first minute. The timekeeper? Oh, okay. And at the end of the 7th minute. At the 8th minute, the bell will be rung twice to remind the speaker to end his or her speech. For the reply speech, the bell will be rung once at the 3rd minute and twice at the 4th minute to signal that the time is up. The adjudicators will ignore any points raised when the stipulated time is up. No heckling, harassment, or barracking is allowed at any time during the debate. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored today to have with us our esteemed panel of adjudicators. Leading this panel is Puan Tan Chui Kang, and our other panel members are Puan Rudra Devi, Anak Perempuan Ulaganathan, and Encik Muhammad Ashwin Thiran. This afternoon, representing the government, our Prime Minister, Mr. Lim Chun Siang, Second Minister, Ms. Janice Lu, Third Minister, Ms. Tang Jimin, and their arguments will be proficiently supported by Ms. Chong Ka-man and Ms. Cheng Pei-jun. Representing the opposition, our opposition leader, Ms. Humaira binti Azizur Rahman, second opposition member, Ms. R.N. Umayal, third opposition member, Ms. Megan Ong, and their arguments will be skillfully buttressed by Ms. Melissa Chong and Ms. Manisha J. Singam. The motion for today is, this House believes that streaming students according to academic ability brings more harm than good. Now we will proceed with today's debate. Members of the House, I would like to call upon the Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Lim Chun Siang, to deliver his argument. Mr. Lim, you have the floor.
Thank you. Barack Obama once said, change is never easy, but always possible. So today, side government is proposing that we change all education systems to abolish this academic streaming. So we want a world where the education system can offer a healthy study environment in schools. So today in this debate, we are comparing on which side the purpose of education is achieved more efficiently. So today in this debate, we'll prove two things. First, about how the system of academic streaming itself is already very problematic. And second, how without academic streaming, we can create a more effective education system. So what is the true purpose and the goal of the education system? First is to create a healthy environment where students are suitable to find motivation and pleasure in studying. Second, you can help them to improve their ability to analyze and comprehend information. And third, we can widen the knowledge of students' society. So academic creates a bad environment to comprehend information. And there are three reasons why we propose this motion. First, we think that the academic streaming has many inherent flaws. Second, academic streaming is very ineffective. And third, it promotes inequality further in the society. So my first point as the Prime Minister is to say how many inherent flaws of a streaming system is based on academics. So degrading students based on exams. So this is very inaccurate and unfair for many students because most of them face many external factors that can affect their performance, such as pressure from family, teachers, or even themselves. So it is very unfair and we should not judge them based on a one-off performance. So the allocation of students in academic streaming is also affected by teachers' perceptions because their behavior, their previous achievement, and their personality will affect their placement. So this will also create an unhealthy academic hierarchy, which promotes educational inequality. Students are divided into classes based on their academic abilities. So in result, this creates a triangle. So on the top of the triangle, they receive better treatment compared to when the bottom of the triangle. So students are judged based on their classes. And we do not want this because we do not want students being in a wrong class and receiving wrong treatment. No, thank you. So the social stigma about students is that students will befriend classmates with common learning ability. So they are more likely to be friends with their classmates compared to students of other classes. So they are divided into classes that smart students will make friends with other smart students and weak students will make friends with other weak students. So this creates an impression that the front classes are smarter and the back classes are less able or less smart. So this is a very unhealthy stereotype because students in the front classes are deemed good students, which seem to be more disciplined and more hardworking. But that is not always the case. While the back classes leave a not so good impression and they seem more stubborn, more talkative, and sometimes disrespectful. But I would say this is not always the case, and it is unfair to judge them based on their classes. Streaming academically is actually promoting these stereotypes, and the school will be inclined to put more focus on better classes because they are smarter, their learning ability is much more higher. So they hope they can get good results in SPM, in exams, to make their school more famous and seem more prestigious. So those students who are in the bad classes are sidelined and they are not focused on. So as the responsibility of the education system, we should help those students who are in need, especially those who are in the weak classes. So we are missing the point here because it's unfair for those weak students to not receive the same help as those of smart students. So we don't want to risk talented students being in the wrong class and receiving the wrong treatment. Yes. POI.
You stated about how in the triangle, the top classes are receiving better treatment than the lower classes, but I think that you're being too stereotypical. Can you explain and elaborate more on this, please? Thank you.
Okay, I'll elaborate this more in my speech later. So going on to my reply is that teachers have some subconscious biasness when it comes to teaching classes. So a certain class is going to give a teacher an impression beforehand. So before the teacher enters the classes, he or she will have an impression about what the class is like and what the students inside are like. So they have an impression that the front classes are able to learn faster. So they are able to give them more homework, give them higher expectations, and give them more challenging questions. So while on the other hand, the back classes need more time and effort to learn compared to the smart classes, and they have to take a lot of time and repetition to remember the same thing. So it increases the workload of some teachers that are teaching the back classes because it's so unfair to them because our teachers receive the same pay. So this makes teachers tend to not like teaching the back classes because it makes their workload more compared to the smart classes. So they are severely underpaid for their hard work. So by eliminating this academic streaming, we're going to make their jobs easier and their workload is going to be spread out more evenly. So why is this so harmful for this education system? Because there's no variety of social circles in the students. Students that are in the back class will be inclined to mix with the same people, and there's nothing inspiring them to mix with people in the front class. So they think they're inferior to the students in the smart class. So they're inclined to socialize people with different academic ability. So this creates a unidimensional, no cross interaction between the students of different academic ability. So smart students will seem like they study every day, and this is what the back class student thinks. So weak students will seem like they don't study, and this is what everybody thinks. But this is not the case. With this system, they don't have a chance to really get to know them personally and get to understand their abilities. Well, on our side, on the side government, which we don't have academic streaming, the students are encouraged to mix with people with different academic abilities because they can learn a lot more about their lifestyle, how they study, how they play, and adopt and learn their way of studying, which is very important if they want to go faster and learn faster. Okay, for example, they can have good discussions with them and they can ask them to teach them in subjects they will struggle with. So students will be given the chance to be closer to people who have different academic abilities, and through this they can learn a lot more rather than when in academic streaming they're confined to their class they're in. So as a conclusion, this student's learning environment should not depend on his or her intelligence, social or economical background, but all students, regardless of their background, regardless of their ethnic, regardless of their social ability or their academic ability, they deserve an equally healthy learning environment. So today, state government is fighting for an overall better learning environment for students and reduce the workload of teachers and make it more even. So I hope the judges will stand with us. With this, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister.
Ya. Ada judges 2 masuk. Okay, boleh continue Kawi. Okay, speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to invite the leader of the opposition to state her case. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Humaira binti Azizur Rahman.
A very good afternoon, I bid to the Honorable Adjudicators, Speaker of the House, precise timekeepers, our hosts, worthy opponents, and supportive team members. The motion for today is that this House believes that streaming students according to academic ability brings more harm than good. As the opposition leader, I stand before you today to say that we, the opposition, affirm that the motion is not true. Instead, we believe that streaming students according to academic ability brings more good than harm. Before I proceed, allow me to rebut the Prime Minister. He mentioned about how we categorize students in classes based on our exam grades, and it's very unfair. How exactly is it unfair? We are just trying to help those people. We are trying to find out the lower achievers and higher achievers, but that doesn't mean we are making them feel lesser than. We are instead going to make their learning process enriching for them tailored according to their needs. And I'll be elaborating in my points. So, ladies and gentlemen, we, the side opposition, are going to build our case on the fact that academic streaming creates the most conducive learning environment for different groups of students and will prove how it improves learning for lower achievers, how it improves learning for higher achievers, and how it teaches students that we are our own competition. I will be bringing in one fundamental point that will support my previous statement, whereas my second speaker will be bringing in 2 points that will further prove our stand on today's motion. And lastly, my third speaker will be rebutting all the points proposed by side government and further affirm our stand against the motion. Before I proceed with my points, allow me to define the important keywords in today's motion. Streaming, the practice of putting school children in groups at the same age and ability to be taught together. Academic ability is the degree of competence in educational activities in school, such as subjects as math, science, English, and so on. Harm, have an adverse effect on. Just to avoid, today's debate is not about streaming students into the science or art stream. That is not what the debate is about today. By agreeing to stream students, we want to clarify that we don't mean to segregate students and make anyone feel lesser than. Our intention is solely to focus on making sure each and every one of our students have the most enriching learning experience in school, especially tailored according to their needs and capabilities. It's very important for us to acknowledge in today's debate that different students learn at a different pace, and that is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Before getting into the crux of my point, allow me to make an important clarification. The opposition does not believe that academics are everything. We acknowledge that it is important, but we firmly believe that it is not everything. Now, if we do believe in this, why are we ranking students or streaming students according to academic abilities? It's for the simple fact that we want each and every one of our students to have an enriching learning experience, ladies and gentlemen. To avoid any confusion, allow me to present a simple scenario. When we start a new sport or any other activity for that matter, in the beginning, we are grouped with those who are starting out and learning as well. We are put together according to abilities in said activity. The reason we are put together according to our abilities is so each and everyone can have the most enriching experience in gaining knowledge or training. If you put a violin player who is a beginner with a group of violin players who have been training every day for the past 5 years, don't you think they will be demotivated? On the contrary, if the beginning violin player was put into a group of beginners, they will not feel as if they are worthy of being there. They would acknowledge the fact that the advanced players have been training much longer than them and will focus on sharpening their own skills instead. Similar to our side, where students who don't perform academically would not think something is wrong with them. They would simply acknowledge that the high achievers are academically talented and has probably started learning earlier and faster than them. lower achieving students, instead of feeling inferior, they would just focus on improving themselves and learn at a pace and method which caters to their needs. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is to ensure each and every one of our students have the most enriching learning process. On the other hand, if we don't stream students, lower ability students will be easily demotivated when they are placed among students whose pace is set above their level. This is because their inabilities will stand out very prominently as compared to the rest of their peers. These students will then feel inferior to their peers and will most likely become passive during lessons and will not engage as much during classes out of fear they might say the wrong thing. I kept stressing out about how the opposition wants to make school and learning enriching for each and every one of our students. And the only way we can do this is when we stream students members of the floor. In a class filled with students who are academically average, none of them would feel less than or inadequate compared to their classmates. This is extremely important as it will allow them to engage and freely express their ideas, thoughts during lessons. Not only is the learning process catered to their needs, it also allows them to build their confidence and enrich their learning as they are able to express their ideas without thinking twice if their ideas might be wrong or inaccurate. This scenario would exist in all classes that are academically streamed, be it high or low achievers, because at the end of the day, they view their classmates as equals and they are not any way inferior to them. Our side believe that this way is the most beneficial as it will encourage students to speak up, engage in lessons, and be confident in their ideas and views. Our sides care for all our students. We want high achievers to have an enriching learning experience tailored for their abilities, and we wish the same for students who don't perform academically. Thus, members of the floor, if you all believe students deserve an enriching learning experience, side with us. Yes, you are accepted.
Okay, so what if it creates the circumstances in where the smart students in smarter classes, they are afraid to speak up to ask questions because they don't want to seem less smarter against their classmates?
What was your POI again?
Sorry, what if it causes in the circumstances where the smart students in smarter classes are afraid to speak up to ask questions because they don't want to seem less smarter than their classmates?
Smarter. I don't think it happens actually. If you think about it, the first class, they are more engaged in their lessons and they are not afraid to speak up, okay? They always give their answers. They always engage in class. So that's why I feel like the first class, they are not afraid to speak up. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Leader of the opposition, your mic is off. Have you finished?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Opposition Leader.
I'm here.
Okay, speaker, you may continue.
All right, thank you very much. Members of the House, we'd like you to help us. Please welcome the second representative of the government, Ms. Janice Liu.
In today's debate, opposition side mentioned that they want a more enriching experience for students in school. And they say that if we were to not stream students according to their academic abilities, they say that students will be demotivated because their weaknesses will be more prominent. But one thing is that our side don't see that what is wrong with that, because when your weaknesses are more prominent, we know what our weaknesses are and we know where to improve on, and then we can learn more things and learn from our classmates. That's what our side don't get, because your weaknesses being prominent doesn't mean that it is a bad thing. Your weaknesses being prominent is a good thing, because you know what you're weak in, you know what you're bad in, and then you know where to work on, how to improve yourself. And that is why we think that we should stream students according to their academic abilities so that they can see their weaknesses and then learn from their stronger classmates. Another thing that the first opposition mentioned in her speech is an example of violin beginner amongst a bunch of professionals. But it's obvious that the opposition misunderstood what we're trying to say. We are saying that we won't stream students according to their academic abilities, not putting a beginner amongst a bunch of professionals, not putting a weaker students amongst a bunch of stronger students. That's not what our side is trying to say today. There will be a bunch of students categorized randomly because they won't be streamed according to academic abilities, and there will be a mix of students, not just a bunch of stronger students with one weak student. So that is something that is obvious that opposition misunderstood what we are trying to debate in today's debate. Now, it is archaic to believe that education is a one-way street, which is what the opposition is trying to say in today's debate. But that is to say that we believe, our side government, we believe that the task of educating students shouldn't be left on the shoulders of teachers alone. And that is what we are having in status quo today. And in my speech, my first point will mainly focus about the ineffectiveness about this system. Now, students in this system, this academic streaming system, they will be categorized by their abilities to be in certain classes. And when these students are categorized in classes, they will have questions. It is natural when students have questions in class, but the first thing students do is ask their classmates instead of the teachers, because it's way more easier to ask the person next to you. And when they ask their classmates next to them, their classmates won't be able to help them. One thing is that because their classmates are of same abilities with them and their level is the same, and their classmates can barely help them, so they can only rely on teachers to learn these things, to solve these minor problems. But one thing is that government, we know that teachers are overworked and they cannot keep helping students solve these minor problems because teachers will be overworked, because teachers have their own work and they are busy. And what about teachers in this system? Teachers, they'll have expectations of students in different groups and classes that will differ significantly. And this will influence both the curriculum students in different groups access. For example, when a teacher teaches a smarter class, they tend to do in a much more faster pace, and the work given will be much more challenging. Whereas when a teacher teaches the normal classes, they are going to give slower paced instructions and less challenging work to their students. And this will be ineffective because we shouldn't categorize students' abilities because of their class before the teachers teach. And now moving on to in a world where we don't have academic streaming system, our students will have more interaction with each other. Because side government in today's debate, we do not believe that education is just about studying. We believe that students should interact with each other, should communicate with each other more, whether it's in classes or whether it's in school. And if we were to demolish the academic streaming system, students can work together to help each other improve, whether you are weaker or stronger. And this cooperation is more likely to happen without an academic streaming system, because stronger students of the same class can help weaker students, their classmates. And this can cultivate the mentality that everyone must work together just to achieve a common goal. POI rejected. And then students will have a discussion and solve problems amongst their peers, because they are more likely to ask their peers questions, just like what I've mentioned earlier in my speech, because classmates are sitting right next to us and it's more easier when we ask them. And we also believe that teachers cannot be with us all the time, because teachers, just like what I've said, teachers have a lot of work and teachers are busy. And when we were to ask our classmates questions, classmates can then discuss on these questions and solve these problems together. And then we can learn from each other and understand topics better. And when we ask our classmates, the one teaching can refresh their memory about what they've just learned and be more clearer about the subjects themselves. And yes, asking questions do happen often in classes because studies prove that we're only able to absorb 30% of what was taught in the class at a time. And the 30% absorbed by each student differs. So students can learn from each other's 30% when they ask each other questions and when they are doing their discussion. And they can then pile up that 30% from each other and then turn their 30% into 100%. And with this system, students will also be more motivated from their peers because students' mentalities depend on their surroundings, and students will work more harder when they see their classmates working harder and studying hard. Yes, your POI.
You're saying that when we put weaker students and stronger students together, they'll help each other. How sure are you that the stronger students will help the weaker students? Can you elaborate on this, please?
Okay, thank you. Yes, because just like what I mentioned already, when the stronger students teach the weaker students, they themselves can be refreshed on what they just learned because they themselves can be more clearer when these weaker students ask them questions. They themselves can also benefit from it. And that is just exactly what I just finished. Obviously, the opposition side wasn't listening to what I just mentioned, what I just explained. And moving on to the teachers, if we were to demolish this system, the teachers can reduce their workload because just like what I mentioned, students, they can solve these minor problems and have discussions amongst themselves. And this can reduce the teachers' workload because the teachers won't need to solve these minor problems for them. Students can solve these problems amongst themselves. And teachers can also have more holistic teaching because we shouldn't expect teachers to have a teaching pace before they teach a class, just like what we're having in status quo, because it gives birth to an unreliable teaching habit. Now, moving on to my next point is about inequality when they are going beyond education, because it is obvious that privileged students tend to be from smarter classes while underprivileged students can come from dumber classes because poor families tend to have disadvantage of living environments, and this will then affect poor students' studies. And then when we were to stream students according to their academic abilities, no matter whether they're rich or poor, they will be categorized about their value solely on their academic abilities. And then students will feel inferior if they don't do well, and students will feel more superior than their peers if they were to do well. And this will then create a black and white world, which will then be brought on into society because this segregation is going to continue on all the way to work life because students will still have the same mindset of being categorized. And those with the same academic achievements will get a better job because they are defined as being more valued by society. And those with a lower academic achievement will be underpaid because they are defined as less valued to the society. And we don't want this to happen because we want a fair system where everyone is appreciated beyond their academics. Because inside government today, we don't believe that a paper or a certificate does define someone's value. We believe that we should give everyone a chance, whether it's in school, whether it's in society, because we don't want a person's value to be defined by their academic abilities and causing them to don't excel in school and unable to excel in everything else. And that's why as side government, I strongly propose to today's motion. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister.
Okay, Speaker, you may continue.
Thank you. Right, members of the House, please welcome the second representative of the opposition, Ms. R.N. Umayang. You have the floor.
A very good afternoon, I bid to the panel of honorable adjudicators, precise timekeepers, Speaker of the House, worthy opponents, and my fellow teammates. Today, before I start off by giving my two arguments, I would like to rebut the arguments given from side government. First of all, I POI'd the first speaker about how he's being stereotypical that the higher class is getting better treatment compared to the lower class. And he has answered me stating that the teachers are biased and making their judgment. How sure are you that the teachers are biased? I think teachers are educators and they are flexible to each and every student so that they can accommodate to bring out their full potential. Moving on, the second speaker has said about how streaming students together will be more helpful and the stronger students will help the weaker students. How sure are you that there won't be inferiority complex between the slow-paced students. And also, are you sure that the strongest students are selfless enough to teach the students, the weaker students? And also, when I POI'd her, she hasn't replied to my POI properly because I spoke about how it helps, but she hasn't answered me on how it helps. Moving on to my arguments. Yes, POI accepted.
Clarification, I did not say that teachers are biased, but however, I say that the school is biased, so you'll have better treatment against the front classes. Thank you.
How sure are you that the schools are biased? Because the school is an environment where they are supposed to be educating students. They are supposed to be flexible. So I don't see how it makes a point over there. Okay, so moving on to my arguments, as my Prime Minister has already touched on how streaming students according to their academic ability improves learning for lower achievers. Let me explain to you how it improves learning for the higher achievers as well. Allow me to paint you a picture on exactly what is happening when the high achievers, what happens to the high achievers when we don't stream them according to their academic excellence. And these students will get disinterested and disengaged from the classroom and not pay attention in their class because they need more knowledge. They think that they are fast enough, they can absorb more knowledge. Therefore, these students feel under challenge and they might portray the loss of interest in learning through any form of rebelliousness, be it to the teachers or carelessness in completing their work through disruptive classroom behaviors, indiscipline, and even withdrawal. And they want to know more and they have to move ahead and they're hungry for knowledge. And they are being denied of an enriching learning experience and maybe even forced to regress because the pace of learning is not catered to their capabilities. They are not allowed to reach their full potential. So now, ladies and gentlemen, is this what we want? I'm sure that we do not have higher achievers who can actually, we do not want higher achievers who can actually excel and become better versions of themselves when given a proper guidance to fall away from the learning, just as because they are not academically streamed. By doing this, we are denying the higher achievers of an enriching learning. This just goes to prove that we side opposition are fighting for today, which is we want to stream students academically so that they are able to have enriching learning process in school, which is the foundation and the stepping stone for success in real world. Streaming enables the teachers to cater to the need of students accordingly. In Malaysia, researchers found out that both teachers and students agree that the benefits of streaming outweighs the disadvantages. In this way, teaching can be done more systematically and the learning can be at its pinnacle. The primary focus is so that each and every student can obtain the most enriching learning experience specifically tailored to their needs and to achieve their highest potential in spite of their learning pace. Now, moving on to my second argument. The opposition strongly believes in streaming students according to their academic abilities because it teaches the student that at the end of the day, we are our own competition. The government might think that our side promotes unhealthy competition, but by streaming students academically, we are actually teaching students that they should not be compared to other people but themselves alone. Our focus is to ensure that students know the purpose of streaming is to benefit themselves so that they are able to have a productive and more enriching learning process. It only matters about how much they learn, not how better or how worse another person is doing around them. The phrase to run your own race is in line with what we are fighting for today. The hard truth is that someone is always going to be better than you because this is the circle of life. For example, while you are pursuing your career, someone else got the wedding and a kid that you wanted. While you were training for a marathon, someone else got their dream job. Instead of comparing yourselves with other people's achievement, so on and so forth, it is important to learn to be competitive with yourselves. When students learn to be competitive with themselves instead of those around them, students will learn not to panic just because those around them get something first. This is because when you start comparing and looking at what others have and what you don't, or what others have achieved and what you haven't, you start to lose focus on your main goal, which is to strive yourself to make yourself a better person than you were before. It doesn't matter how, where, or when you start. All that matters is how you end it. This is what we believe in, ladies and gentlemen. We want to set up our students for success, and the way they do it is to provide proper foundation where they have an enriching learning experience so that they can value the fact that the only progress that matters is theirs, and the only competition that they have against themselves is themselves, according to their own pace. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Madam Second Opposition Leader.
Okay, judges, can we continue? Judges? Judges?
1 minute. Madam Speaker, 1 minute, yeah?
Okay. Speaker, you may continue when the judge is ready, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah,
May I continue? Thank
ready.
you. Right. Thank you very much. And now the House would like to invite the third Minister, Ms. Tang Jamin, to present her views. Ms. Tang, you have the floor.
Okay, so both sides in today's debate, we want the same thing, okay? We want to have a better academic environment for students, no matter if they are fast learners or they are slow learners. And then I'm going to prove to you the way I'm going to do my speech today is I'm going to analyze the clashes in this debate. I'm going to tell you why side government does a better job than side opposition. Okay, so about the first clash. First clash is about how side opposition tried to argue that, for about better environment for slower students. What they said was that if you put slower students in the same class with fast learners, they're going to get demotivated, they'll feel inferior, they'll be afraid to speak up. Okay, let's talk about feeling inferior and demotivated first. Which side is going to be more likely to have this circumstance? We think that it's the opposition side, because when you're academically streaming people, you are putting them in classes, in the same classes, saying that, oh, this is a slow class for slower students. You guys are the slower students. And this is a message that whether you're directly or indirectly sending it to the students of that class. And what do you think the students would think? They'll look at the they'll look at the fast learners classes, they'll think that, oh, we're not like them, we cannot go to the first class, we're in the back class, and what? And then they feel demotivated, they feel inferior to those people. It's not because of what. And then in our world where we have a bunch of slow learners with a bunch of fast learners in the same class, what are they going to do? They're going to look at, oh, you see, our class has it's very diverse. There are slow learners like me, there are also fast learners like them, and okay, it's going to lessen the feeling of feeling inferior, because I'm not alone. Like, I'm not just sitting in the back class looking in front classes people and thinking like, why I cannot go into the front classes. I'm going to feel inferior. That is how inferiority is likely going to happen. Okay, your POI.
Are you stating that a person who can learn to drive a car in 5 days and a person who can learn to drive a car in 20 days, if they are going to be separated into different classes, they are going to feel motivated? Can you please elaborate? Thank you.
Okay, that's a very good POI actually. They're talking about how violin players, how they are beginners, and then you're going to push them to go into the advanced class, or how drivers, they are like learning for 5 days, you're going to push them in the class for 5 years. Okay, that's not what we're doing. Looking at academic, people get the same academic experiences. Okay, we all have 6 years of primary school, we all have 5 years of secondary school, and then what happens? Because the students, they know that I have the same 6 years of primary school, I have the same 5 years of secondary school as the people from the first classes, and yet here I am still in the back classes being told that I am less, that I have learned I'm learning less, that I'm not as of value as of the people in the first classes, and that's what's going to make them feel inferior, and that's what you don't want to see in our case. Because at our world, when people like a bunch of slow learners and a bunch of fast learners are in the same class, what they're going to see, oh, we have the same bunch of people like me, and we have the same bunch of people that I can look up to, and that is how it's creating a better environment for those students who are much slower in the learning process. Okay, POI rejected. And the next thing is that let's talk about improving things for higher achievers. That's the second clash. Side opposition told us that if you force higher achievers to go into the same class as lower achievers, they're going to feel disinterested, they're going to feel under-challenged. Okay, so because they are not allowed to reach their full potential. Okay, so first response was from my second speaker, where she told you that in a class where there's no academic streaming, what do the fast learners do? They can go and teach. They can help the poorer students, they can help the slower students, okay? They can help them. They can work together. I'm giving you my knowledge. I'm teaching you. And when we all know that when you are teaching, you are actually applying that knowledge. You're understanding that concept better. That is how it's going to benefit the smarter students. And then what the response from side opposition was that they said that, why would you assume that stronger students are going to help the weaker students? Now, I'm going to point that out. What is the attitude behind this question? They are thinking that stronger students, they will feel that I am superior. Why do I have to help weaker students? Why do I have to go and help them? What are you doing? You're proving that actually stronger students, they're going to feel superior over the students with lesser academic abilities. You think that I'm going to be really proud that I'm not going to teach them. That's not what we want to see. And by asking that question, they're actually proving that it actually happens when you have academic streamings where stronger students look down upon weaker students. And that is not going to happen in our case when you think it's normal that you see, there are people that are going to be slower learners and I'm going to help them. That's what we want to see in our case. And then another thing is that what they're actually saying, pushing people to the full potential, what is going to happen? Okay, you're going to see that in classes like right now, you can see the first few classes, there are chapters, there are 4 or 5 chapters ahead of the classes at the back classes, and that is actually widening this disparity in their world. But in our world, when there is no academic streaming, you can see that people, they are going to move together, progress as a class. They're going to progress as a class. They're going to help out each other, and then the whole thing, the disparity, the students will not be as polarized. The disparity, the gap between them will close. Okay, your POI.
Are you saying that you're asking us to equalize our learning pace and force them to learn at the same pace? What if they cannot cope? What then?
Yes, we want students to have equal learning pace in the pressure, and that brings us to our third clash. Actually, it's not the clash about teacher teaching. Okay, we want to create a world where teachers, they are not required, they are not asked to they are not told to that you have to adjust your pace of teaching before you actually teach a student. We want a world where teacher, they are allowed to, teach a subject the way it was supposed to be, that they are not required that, because when you're academically streaming students, you're labeling them smart and dumb, you're categorizing them into different classes. And when a teacher is teaching maybe a smarter class, you're actually telling that this is smart class. You have to give them challenging homework. You have to adjust your pace to be faster. No, we do not want that world. We want a world where a teacher starts by teaching a subject the way it is supposed to be taught, and then look at the progress of their class before deciding whether he or she is going to adjust her pace. We want teacher to be allowed to do that. In our world, we fight for that. Okay, and also we talk about how teachers' burden will be lessened, and there was no response from side opposition when we told you that because the students are now working together when there is no academic streaming, the teachers, they won't have to work so hard when they're teaching a class with slower learners, that they have to really put in a lot of effort to push them, because this burden will be evened out by the smarter students, and the smarter students are actually benefiting from this process. That is what we want to propose in our world. And so we can see that in our world, we actually have a more effective learning process. We have a more quoting side opposition. We have a more enriching learning process where students, they work together, where the fast learners, they are not left out, and the poor learners, they are not left out, where they are encouraged to mix with the diversity of people. And then And then what happens in that? What happens is that this mentality that is, that is told to them from the start of the school year, this mentality is going to stick to them when they go out to society. So that if I'm doing well in school, I will not be feeling that I'm superior and I go out to society and I discriminate other people. No, that's not going to happen. And if I didn't do so well in school, I'm also not going to feel inferior when I go out to society and think that I'm less valued to society. No, in our school, we fight for a better environment of teaching, we fight for a better academic environment, we fight for a world where people are not just valued by their academic ability. So side government never been product to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Third Minister.
Okay, judges, are you ready? Judges?
Yes, ready.
Okay, speaker, you may continue.
All three, yeah? Okay. Now the House would like to call upon the third opposition member, Ms. Megan Ong. Ms. Ong, you have the floor.
Okay, Mike Test, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
A streamed class is like a bus ride. Everyone is going at the same pace to the same destination. The teacher is the driver that steers them in the direction they need to go. A very good afternoon I bid to the Honourable Adjudicator, Speaker of the House, precise timekeeper, worthy opponents, and my supportive teammates. The motion for today is that streaming brings more harm than good. We, as the side opposition, strongly disagree on this motion. As the third opposition leader, I am here today to rebut the points that was given by the government. Okay, let me start off with the first speaker. The first speaker did say in his speech that the teachers will have a subconscious bias towards the students that were in a higher class. Like, if the teachers have a bias, shouldn't they not teach? Because, like, as a teacher, you're supposed to be fair. You're supposed to teach everyone. And the first speaker also said that when you eliminate streaming, you are reducing the teacher's workload. I don't think this is the case. Like, aren't you like increasing their workload instead? Because like if you mix both the students that are not good, like academically, they excel academically, and students that do not, the teachers will suffer, in my opinion. Like, because the teachers will not know how to teach them. Like, yes, teachers have to be flexible, but they can only be flexible to like a point. Because like if you if you stream, the teacher will have an easier workload because they know exactly where to pinpoint, they know where to focus on in order to help the students. Does this not make more sense? The second speaker also said that the workloads of the teacher will reduce. No, it will increase. As I said, the second speaker also said that it reduces the workload specifically by allowing the smarter students, the students that excel academically, to teach the students that do not. Sure, but what if they teach the wrong thing? What if they give the knowledge, but it's the wrong type of knowledge? Won't the teacher have to do more work in order to correct that mindset then? Like, and if the class has questions, by default, they are taught to question the teacher. They are taught to ask the teacher, because the teacher is the one giving. The teacher is the main source of knowledge that they are receiving, not their classmates. The teachers are the one that's explaining everything, pouring their heart and soul into their job. And shouldn't the students respect that by asking the teacher the questions instead of the students? And when you ask the teacher the questions, right, the whole class can learn together. So if a specific person asks their deskmate what happened, right, like what the teacher asked because they did not understand, only the two of them will have that quote-unquote knowledge. But if the student asks the teacher immediately, the teacher can elaborate again or elaborate further, and the whole class can come to like an understanding, can get more knowledge. Like, you get me? Yeah. And the speaker kept talking about, oh wait, I'm sorry. If the teacher with qualifications, like they have to go to school to be a teacher. If the teacher with that qualification doesn't want to be involved, how do you expect, like, doesn't want to be involved, right? Like, don't want to answer the questions or something like that. How do you expect, like, with the students with good grades to explain when the teacher themselves don't want to be involved? Okay. And the second speaker also said that the teachers have to will want to teach the way it's supposed to be taught, like want to teach a subject the way it's supposed to be taught. There is no such thing. It's every teacher is unique. Every teacher is different. The way they teach is different. It's the teacher's job to be flexible and like encompass everyone. But there's only a limit. Like I said, there's only a limit to how flexible they can be. Like a bendy ruler, if you bend it too much, they will break. It's the same thing with teachers. Okay. Sorry, I'm really nervous. Okay. My second speaker said that, my first opposition leader said that you shouldn't put a beginner into a team with like experienced people. Instead, you should put the beginner into a team with beginners. It makes sense because then all the beginners can learn together instead of that one beginner in a team of experienced people, like being confused, being left out. Like, it does not make sense if you just put like a person that is not as qualified or overqualified into a team that's like not suitable for them. It sets them up for disaster. Okay, let me give you an example. Like two students in a class, one of them gets 90 marks for an exam, the other gets 40. If there is no streaming, the parents of the student that got 40 will question them, will stress them and be like, why did you not get 90 like your classmates? Like, this will just create more stress for them. And yeah, however, if you stream, that student which got 40, right, will be able to be in a class that has the same learning pace as them. So like, if one student cannot catch up or cannot cope, the whole class that is in stream probably cannot as well. So this will prove to the parents, this will prove to everyone that the whole class struggled, and this will show the teacher that they need to focus more on that particular subject or that particular topic. In turn, this will enrich the learning process for the students. Sorry. And like, one of the speakers said something about being excluded or like not being able to mingle around. Like, I don't believe that's the case, because even if you're in streaming classes, it's not like don't have the chance to mingle outside classrooms. The mixed activities. So yeah. So before I finish my speech, let me elaborate on one thing. We, the side opposition, do not believe that academics is everything. We just want the most enriching experience for our students during their schooling lives. By the end of the day, we want the stream to continue to be implemented so that the students will have the most enriching experience they can. If you believe with that, ladies and gentlemen, do side with the opposition team. And with that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Speaker, open your mic.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much to the government and also the leaders of the opposition. That was indeed a rousing debate, and the House will now rest for 3 minutes to allow our members to prepare their reply speeches. The time starts now.
Awi. Ada judges. Judges kita bukan 4 ke? Tadi kan ada seorang masuk tu ni, kat yang ni, not join ni. Nampak tak? Dekat screen hang. Dia tak masuk ni. Dia bukan kot, tak tahulah. Tapi dia judges juga lah. Masuk lah. Okay. Patutnya 3. Tak salah aku tengok list tu. Tapi tak sure. Okay.
All right, members of the government and members of the opposition, your time is up. Now it is time for the reply speech. We will begin with the opposition, and I would like to call upon which speaker is speaking for you?
I'm speaking.
The second speaker, the honorable second member of the opposition.
Speaker. Opponent, the government tak masuk lagi.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. Okay, we are waiting for the government. Okay.
Okay, they're in, right?
Okay, the reserve do not need to come in. Okay, judges, are you ready?
Yes, Puan.
ME, who is speaking for you for your reply speech, your rebuttal? Government, who is doing the rebuttal?
I'm gonna do the reply speech. My name is Janice Lu.
Okay, second minister, yeah? All right.
Yeah.
Right, as I was saying, it is time for the reply speech. We will begin with the opposition, and I would like to call the honorable second member of the opposition, Ms. Aren Umayal, to deliver her speech. You have the floor, Ms. Umayal.
A very good afternoon, I bid to the panel of honorable adjudicators, precise timekeepers, Speaker of the House, worthy opponents, and my fellow teammates. Before I reinforce my sides of argument, I would like to sum up the points given by the government side. First of all the points that they have said was only linked to that teachers' work is being overloaded. Please understand that by streaming, we are not only reducing the teachers' load, and we are also helping the students. You have never brought the students into the picture for this motion. So I think that the only thing you were looking at was the teachers' workload. So the topic of our debate today asserts that streaming students according to academic abilities brings more harm than good. We on side opposition have presented strong and solid reasons to invalidate this proposition. Ladies and gentlemen, on our first point, we emphasized that the need to recognize each and every individual's learning capabilities. Obviously, when you have a class of students on differing academic capabilities, the below average students are going to end up feeling frustrated as they can't take that their inability to keep up with the academically superior ones. So streaming is by far the better option, which enables teachers to customize their teaching methodologies to derive the best learning outcomes for the groups of students with differing learning capabilities. We then went on to our second point to state why streaming students according to their academic abilities also guarantee that the best learning outcomes for the students who excel academically. Teachers are then able to focus towards helping these high-performing students to reach a greater level. Ladies and gentlemen, we surely would not want to achieve these objectives we would surely not be able to achieve these objectives if streaming were not to be adopted. Teachers would have to allocate their time and energies towards a group of students varying academic abilities and end up challenging all the students. In this respect, we have done a disservice to both parents and students who have placed their trust on the school for the best learning outcomes for their students. Finally, and most importantly, students with similar learning capabilities would establish a solidarity among themselves. When you have a strong team spirit, this will foster healthy competition and a sense of camaraderie within a class, a greater chance of students thriving both academically and emotionally. Would that not be guaranteed students who are both academically competent and emotionally adept to navigate through their life's challenges? And most importantly, many countries around the world have been following the streaming system, and it has been successful. So I don't see why not that we should abolish this system. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that based on these points we have agreed above, streaming students based on their academic ability is indeed viable if we care about the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aaron Maya, Honorable Second Member of the Opposition.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, judges, are you ready? Hello, judges. Oh, I think I heard yes.
Yes, sir. I can continue?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Right now,
Yeah,
I'd like to
sure.
call upon the Right Honorable Second Minister, Ms. Janice Lu, to deliver her speech.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me clearly? Okay. In today's debate, our side government gave you a stance that we said that we want a world where the education system can offer a healthy study environment in schools and helping students, teachers, and the society. Now, let's look at opposition's stance in today's debate. Opposition said that they want to provide an enriching learning experience for students. But let's see in today's debate why our side actually provides this enriching experience more on if we were to demolish this system in status quo. Because our side, we tell you that we don't want to stream students according to their academic abilities. So no matter whether you are stronger students, no matter you are weaker students, there is a possibility that you will end up in the same class. And because of this diversity, because we have stronger students and weaker students in the same class, this actually is more enriching in the learning experience on our side because we have a mix of students. It is not on the same level. It's not on the same, not everyone have the same ability, but when we all have diverse students of different abilities, we can enrich our learning experience because we can have discussions to each other, we can explain to each other about problems, we can discuss problems, solve problems academically, and it is more enriching overall. And now let's move on to our points. The first speaker from side government, our side, mentioned about the social stigma that it will cause if we were to imply this system in our education system. But we didn't hear any response from the opposition side in today's debate. And moving on to the next point presented by me, the second speaker of the government side, I mentioned about the problems that will bring to society because this mindset of being categorized will be moved on to society. And the same thing goes to our first point. We didn't hear any responses from the opposition side. The only thing that opposition side responded on is to our last point about the effectiveness about this system and our move on to the clash points about this point. So both sides, we mentioned that this will cause demotivation to the students, but which side really causes the most demotivation? Opposition side mentioned that because in the class of weak and smart students, they will start comparing each other. That's what the opposition side responded to our mechanism, our side, our world. And government, we tell you that their side is indirectly labeling people, saying that they are dumb. Because they are at lower classes compared to other people. And which side is really more demotivated? Obviously, opposition. Why? Because opposition in today's debate, they are indirectly labeling someone dumb and telling them that they are inferior than others before even giving them the chance to try. And if they are labeled, we are labeled, if someone calls you dumb, you won't even be motivated to even continue to try to get out from this problem. Because when someone calls you dumb, we often be mentally hurt and we won't even have the courage to make ourselves better. And obviously, it is more demotivated on opposition side. And let's look onto another clash point in today's debate about the workload of teachers. Side government tells you that we can solve this problem of teachers' workload because we tell you that we know that teachers work a lot. We know that teachers have a lot of work, are really busy, and that's why we say that students can solve these minor problems amongst themselves. But the opposition side questioned us about why teachers don't want to get involved, and this is not a proper response, and we don't hear a proper response. And then the last thing is that opposition side failed to give us an alternative to solve these problems, and that is why I believe that side government takes today's debate. And I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Madam Second Minister. So let me reiterate, the motion for today was this House believes that streaming students according to academic ability brings more harm than good. We heard passionate arguments from both sides, both the government and the opposition. So we'll leave it to the adjudicators to see which side takes the House.
Hello, speaker.
Yeah.
Speaker.
Yeah.
You boleh masuk dalam judges tu untuk breakout room sebab nanti dia akan bagi tahu you punya result. Dapat I akan masukkan you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Saya blur first time guna Zoom ni. Saya selalu pakai Google Meet. Okay, so I join, right? Nice.
Awi, macam mana nak letak dia dalam main balik? Oh. Nak kena masukkan ke tak? Nak macam nak delete ni? Dia move to. Aku tekan move to main season, dia pun tak pergi pun. Nampak? Kan? Okay, mai dah. Okay. Yeah, okay.
What is...
Okay. You all tak payah masuk dalam breakout room dah sebab nak tahu result sahaja. So you can berkenalan with the others.
Hello.
Hi, you guys did really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were also really good.
No.
Yeah, you guys were really enjoyable.
Speak up was really scary. That's all I'm gonna say.
How was your previous debate?
Was it like okay? Oh.
Okay. Penyokong.
Okay, you boleh buka you punya mic sebab kita nak cakap thank you like that.
No penyokong lah.
God, kau punya kawan. Okay.
No.
Bye.
That is scary.
Scary. Oh, that's so scary. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Subscribe.
Awi.
Bye.
Aku masuk dekat judges tau. Okay, teruskan sembang.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow to watch the finals.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.